And this failure of you know perestroika and glasnost is regarded to be as a one major reason behind the downfall of USSR. As I have been informing you, telling you again and again that USSR as a country was totally dependent on the Communist Party and their Soviet leaders. So when democracy was being introduced for, of, and by the people for their benefit, people on the other hand, they started thinking that it was not for their benefit. Instead, the Soviet leaders were uh, you know lacking, behind, were a failure to help the people took it in the other way. So when people did not support it, people did not like the bureaucratic system, couldn't understand what Gorbachev wants us to bring. So this whole socio-political cultural aspect of Soviet Union, totally it got disturbed. And this disturbance is rightly been said to bring a kind of a change, a kind of you can say a kind of total destruction of the whole system, and it led to the end of USSR as a superpower by 25th December 1991. And thereby, as Gorbachev was the last leader, he is been regarded in the Soviet history to end up the very popular ideology of socialism in USSR. Now let us understand about shock therapy. This is one of the topic which has been uh, which is there in in your chapter 2. mm, After the shock therapy, we will try to understand about the outcome of the consequences of the Soviet Union. I am talking about shock therapy in between because it is also related to Soviet Union before its introduction. So I'm just going to talk about shock therapy before we know the consequences of the disintegration of USSR. Shock therapy is also a very simple concept. Shock therapy implies the introduction or the coming up of alternative powers in the post Cold War era. Along with USSR as the sole superpower, we also came to know about World Bank and IMF. Everyone started coming up in the Western world, and this introduction and the coming up of the economic agencies or economic institutions like IMF and IMF and World Bank in global politics came to be known as the understanding of shock therapy. It means now uh, not USA as a sole superpower, as a hegemon, we also have economic institutions on whom we can depend on. And what this shock therapy brought to USSR, now we are going to see. Number one, this coming up of shock therapy, you know, at that point of time, coming up of World Bank and IMF, etc. At that point of time, it changed. The whole at that point of time, USSR has totally changed. Was have totally changed. It has to at that point of time. It has to sell its industries in a throwaway prices. As I have been saying that USSR was totally dependent on its industries, it's on one dominated political parties and only on the political leaders. So now because of this shock therapy in global politics, USSR has to sell all its big industry into throwaway prices. It was not able to provide basic alliances to its people. It was not able to give any welfareistic measures to its people. And USSR as a whole, all these 15 republics, all these leaders, as already they started having a kind of a sense of you can say difference in a sense of sovereignty among them, so they were not even united. So as they were not united, this shock therapy was coming up of shock therapy was was created a really bad condition in USSR, and accordingly, with their own causes of disintegration and the coming up of shock therapy and other alternative powers in global world, it made all the 15 republics to get divided into newly independent sovereign countries. And in present day, if we talk about USSR, something to relate with USSR, so then in present day it is only Russia. That is, some way it is not exactly like USSR, but it had its reflection. It has been called that the reflection of USSR can be seen in present day Russia. So shock therapy is just a kind of linkage, a kind of link is there, so it is mentioned in your chapter. So now let us see the consequences of the disintegration of USSR. Number one consequences is that the Cold War ended up by 1991. Cold War was the existence of two superpowers, USA talking about capitalism and Soviet Union talking about socialism, which divided the world into two halves. So that was a Cold War, and it is known as Cold War because it was an ideological war. Ideological war, and where any weapons, any destruction was not been done, because people at that point of time, political leaders at that point of time, it understood the destructive outcomes of World War I and World War II. So it decided to have Cold War. So it has been said that it was a war, indirect war, ideological war going on. So as USSR disintegrated by 1991, it means that other ideological war between capitalism and socialism, it has its downfall. So automatically this whole concept of Cold War era and Cold War period ended up with the disintegration of USSR by 1991. Number two, it says that it changed the whole power relations in global politics, and a new power came up, alternative power, sole power, superpower came up after 1991, that was USA, which popularly came to be known as US hegemony, or US as the sole hegemon in global politics. Third, number three, it has been known that we came to know that apart from USA as the sole superpower, after the disintegration of USSR, it also created newly independent countries. Third world countries came up. Now in chapter 1, we came to know about NAM, and how Nehru, and third Nehru as the sole pioneer of NAM, along with the five nations. It talked about getting separating from a kind of separation. They were into an separation from the sole superpower, and they started their non-aligned movement. NAM's full form is non-aligned movement. So third point outcome, or the third outcome of disintegration of USSR was that USA was there already as a sole superpower, but also we also came to know about the third world developing countries, that is the existence of NAM countries as an alternative options. Even in the Western countries, European Union came up. So apart from USA, apart from USSR, now we can think of some alternative powers as well. So this was the third outcome, and the final outcome, the fourth outcome, was that that people started realizing that it is not it is no more about dependence into one or two superpower. Although USA was the into its height, into its peak as an hegemon, but everyone after 1991, everyone started realizing that everyone can have a say, can have a position in global politics. So thereby it has been said that after the disintegration of USSR, this when bipolarity ended up, multipolar world politics, multipolar understanding of the concept started. So in the post Cold War era, this post Cold War era is been known to be as multipolarity. Cold War era was known as bipolarity. In the post Cold War era, when USSR disintegrated, so we came up with a new concept called multipolar world. For now, we are going to discuss the last and the final topic of your chapter, that is India and USSR. This is your last topic. So let us see, what is India, how what was the relations of India with USSR, how was India related with USSR at that point of time, was they whether they were friends, or India was totally against this socialist system, because in chapter 1 we have said that India as a Nam country was trying to get separate from the uh, superpowers, maybe USA, USSR, both of them. They were, India was trying to get separated. Nehru was the leader. But in this particular chapter, you will see that although India was a part of NAM, non-aligned movement, that is not to join the superpowers, but it used to also have good relations with Russia, good relations with the USSR. I have used the term Russia because it is present day, it is known as Russia. So it has been said that India maintained a good relations. It had a good foreign relations. It has been said that from Cold War period till the post Cold War period, India has signed 80 bilateral treaties with Russia. Indo-Russian strategy was also there. Russia was also helping India during the with its Kashmir problem. Russia was helping India with its energy supply. Russia's Russia was also helping India in its nuclear policies, satellite programs, space research programs, etc. So now in the last topic we came to know that although in chapter 1 we were talking, we were saying that India being the leader of NAM, through Nehru, they decided to be totally isolate, not isolate, but to have a alternative, to have a to maintain a distance from the sole superpowers of the Cold War era. But in the but by the end of with this disintegration, or by the end of Cold War period till the post Cold War era, India maintained, India was was greatly dependent on the Soviet countries. It had a good relations with Soviet Union. So in short, you can say that you cannot totally negate that India was totally into isolation of not following any of the two superpowers, but some or the other way it was also related to the it is related with one of the superpower of the Cold War era, by taking help on Kashmir issue, by taking help on nuclear programs, by taking help on the India space research programs, by taking help on energy supply, etc., etc. So it means that India, although it was talking a two-way step, that is, it was a part of NAM, non-aligned movement, of not joining any of the two superpowers. It did not join the superpowers officially, but India was taking help, was had a mutual relations with one of the superpowers in the post Cold War period. So thereby, so with this last topic, we we ended up chapter 2. In my next video we will be talking about chapter 3. Chapter 3 is all about US hegemony and its power.